the head of the stone wench who was supposed to be delivering water to the neighbourhood. Petro had long arms, and she was a small nymph, as well as one with an empty cockleshell. Petro himself was a big, solid, normally calm and competent citizen. Now he stared down the alley with a glum frown. I paused to slosh more liquor into my own cup. That gave me time to absorb his news while I decided how to react. In the end, I said nothing. Exclaiming, "Oh my goodness, old pal," or "By Jupiter, my dear Lucius, I cannot believe I heard that correctly," was too much of a cliché. If he wanted to tell me the story, he would. If not, he was my closest friend, so if he was playing at guarding his privacy, I'd appear to go along with it. I could ask somebody else later. Whatever had happened, he couldn't keep his secret from me for long. Extracting the fine details of scandal was my livelihood. Taylor's Lane was a typical Aventine scene. Faceless tenement blocks loomed above a filthy one-cart lane that meandered up here from the Emporium down by the Tiber, trying to find the way to the Temple of Ceres, only to lose itself somewhere on the steep heights above the Probus Bridge. Little near-naked children crouched, playing with stones beside a dubious puddle, catching whatever fever was rampant this summer. Somewhere overhead, a voice droned endlessly, telling some dreary story to a silent listener who might be driven to run mad with a meat knife any minute now. We were in deep shade, though aware that wherever the sun could find access, the August heat was shimmering. Even here, our tunics stuck to our backs. "Well, I got your letter at last." Petronius liked to approach a difficult subject by the winding, scenic route. "What letter?" "The one telling me you were a father." "What?" "3 months to find me. Not bad." When Helena and I and the new baby sailed back to Rome from Tarraconensis recently, it only took 8 days at sea and a couple more travelling gently from Ostia. "That's not possible." "You addressed it to me at the station house," Petronius complained. "It was passed around the clerks for weeks, and when they decided to hand it over, naturally I wasn't there." He was laying it on with a mortar trowel, a certain sign of stress. "I thought it would be safer sent to the Vigiles. I didn't know you'd have got yourself suspended," I reminded him. He was not in the mood for logic. Nobody much was about. For most of the afternoon we'd skulked here virtually in private. I was hoping that my sisters and their children, whom Helena and I had invited for lunch in order to introduce them all to our new daughter in one go, would go home. When Petro and I had sneaked out, not one of the guests had been showing any sign of leaving. Helena had already looked tired. I should have stayed. Her own family had had the tact not to come, but had invited us to dinner later in the week. One of her brothers, the one I could tolerate, had brought a message in which his noble parents politely declined our offer of sharing a cold collation with my swarming relatives in our tiny, half-furnished apartment. Some of my lot had already tried to sell the illustrious Camilli dud works of art that they couldn't afford and didn't want. Most of my family were offensive, and all of them lacked tact. You couldn't hope to find a bigger crowd of loud, self-opinionated, squabbling idiots anywhere. Thanks to my sisters all marrying down, I stood no chance of impressing Helena's socially superior crew. In any case, the Camilli didn't want to be impressed. "You could have written earlier," Petronius said morosely. "Too busy. When I did write, I'd just ridden 800 miles across Spain like a madman, only to be told that Helena was in desperate trouble with the birth. I thought I was going to lose her, and the baby, too. The midwife had gone off halfway to Gaul, Helena was exhausted, and the girls with us were terrified. I delivered that child myself, and I'll take a long time to get over it." Petronius shuddered. Though a devoted father of 3 himself, his nature was conservative and fastidious. When Arria Silvia was having their daughters, she'd send him off somewhere until the screaming was all over. That was his idea of family life. I could receive no credit for my feat. "So you named her Julia Junilla, after both grandmothers? Falco, you really know how to arrange free nursemaids." Julia Junilla